So I will start this recording now and re-maximize this window. So what we're going to do now is we're going to create some functions in here that are going to basically check for these inputs. So what we can do is simply, I'm going to make this larger first, and we're going to create a function in here. We can call it whatever we feel like. It doesn't really matter. I'm going to call it validate because I think that makes sense. And for now, I'm going to just put the word pass there. So basically, if you put the word pass, I'm sure you guys have seen it, basically it just doesn't do anything. Because if I didn't put that, it would kind of just break. But there's some things that we want this function to accept. All we want it to accept is two inputs. We want to accept the size and the number of slices because this is going to be processing our post data. All right, so basically, inside of our view, we're going to call this validate function, pass it these two things that are coming from our form, and make sure that it knows that somebody put those in, essentially. So to do that, you can just say size and slices here. And then inside of here, we can just do some basic checks. We can have, basically what we want to know is if there are issues with it. Right, so we can check, because these are strings, or numbers actually, we can make sure that they're inside of here. So generally what you would want to do is you can say if the length of this size string is less than 1, then we know that you didn't put anything inside of it, right? It's an empty string. But with a number, yeah, we can say if the number, I suppose, or the size is less than 0, we can try to say something like this. I'm not sure how it'll work.
Trying to make it error right now?
Yeah.
Trying to error it right now.
Yeah, we're trying to resolve the errors, essentially, that somebody has maybe tried to put in. So what we're going to try to do is say, if you try to put in a number that's less than 0, then we're not going to let you do that. So we can just...
We should do it less than 1.
Sure. That'll work. So if you enter 0, then what we're going to do is tell you that that's not allowed. So a quick way to do this is we can store all of these errors that we're going to generate, essentially, into a list. Right, so what we can do is have this errors array up here that we're going to create right now, and just leave it blank. By the time we get to the end of all these checks, if there's anything inside of here, we know you made a mistake. So we're going to give you all the errors back to you. That's kind of what I'm thinking. So if the size is less than 1, then what we're going to do is we're going to say errors.append. So we're going to put something into that list. And we can put whatever we feel like here. We can be like, you must enter a pizza size of at least 1 inch. It's a 1-inch pizza. Or you can just get clever and just be more general with this and say if it's less than 1 or it's above 18, then we can be like, hey, it has to be between 1 and 18. Yeah. I think that makes more sense.
Then we increase the count, the error.
We'll say the size must be between 1 and 18 inches. So we'll just display that on the page in front of somebody's face if they don't do this.
And
So
now we have 1 error.
Yeah, now we have an error.
Yeah.
Exactly. So you'll see how we do that in a second. The other thing we want to check for separately is if you've given us slices. So if slices is less than 1, then you just have a whole pizza that we didn't cut, I suppose. Or what else can we check for? If your slices are more than
size.
That's what I was thinking. Cool. So then we'll make another error and we'll say number of slices cannot be greater than size. Whoa, sorry. The size of your pizza. Because that would be weird. Okay. So now we have 2 errors that we've generated, right? So we've created these errors to show the person that they messed up, okay? So now we have this errors array, but we need to know if there's any errors in this. So if this code runs and we get to the end of this and there are issues, we can say if there's anything inside of this list, then we want to know about it, right? So we can check something like this. I think you can check for if length of errors, I think. We can just get the amount of things that are inside of this list. Right? So if we know that there's anything in there, then there's a problem. But if there's not, in the case of this, if there's no errors, so if there's less than one error, there's nothing in there. So it must have been successful. Then what we can do is we can actually create that pizza, because we know that by the time they run this, that they're successful. Else, we'll maybe give you back those errors. So we'll give you some information about them. So we could say return errors. Right, but in the case that they were successful, we're going to take all of this logic over here in our view. If you remember this def create, what we're going to do is grab this whole pizza objects create thing and kind of just ditch it. So now what we're going to do is take that code and shove it over here. So now you can see we're kind of separating out some of that logic and putting it all over here. So now what we're going to do is we say, if there's no issues with your pizza, then we're going to let you create a pizza, essentially. So we're taking this size from here. After we validate your stuff, we can say size is size, and slices is slices. So now we're creating that here. Another interesting thing might be to do a return here. So this might be kind of confusing, but what's happening is whenever you call this pizza.object or whatever, yeah. So it's going to return an instance of a new pizza. It'll give this is, if we call this is going to give us back an instance of a pizza, which we can now use on our view.
Can we point to it? To the create?
Can you point to it? You mean?
Function?
Yeah. So you mean if this is essentially the same thing. If I stored it in a variable, it might make more sense rather than just returning it. And then just kind of put this stuff in there. And then we can return pizza. If that makes more sense to you, do it that way. I just like to trim down on stuff as much as possible. Let's break this over here. And then we can return pizza. Let's move this, sorry. If that makes more sense, do it this way. Because now, when we call create, it gives us, it stores a new pizza inside of here, and then we're going to give us back the pizza. So we can use this inside of our view, for example. So now we have return pizza if we are successful. Right? So let's go ahead and save this. Now that we have all this logic happening over here, what we can do is come over to our create method. Over here where we have our size and slices, where we originally called pizza object create, it was right here. What do you think I have to call now?
You have to see the arrows. If there's a
Yeah. There's also one more really important thing I didn't do. So in order to actually use this pizza manager, this class we just created, we have to make this a property on our actual model here. So the way you do this is quite simply, so if you remember that .objects thing we were using, what we have to do is kind of just overwrite that. So we're going to say objects equals, and then what did we call it? Pizza manager. So we're going to just create basically a pizza manager. So now our pizza object has this sort of manager also on top of it.
I saw an example online when we override the create method. Can we use that? Or?
Overwrite the create method?
Yeah, in the pizza class, we override the create method.
We could do that.
We can do that?
Yeah, you could totally do that for sure. I think it'll still save to the database if you wanted. Because I was actually trying something before this lecture to see if we could just pass in to this create method an actual pizza object, which would be really nice, but we can't. That would make way more sense. So we have this now, this pizza, we've kind of given it a manager class. Does this stuff kind of make sense so far to you guys?
Yeah.
This validator kind of class? Because all it's doing is we took all the logic that was happening in the view, right, and we just jumped it over here. So essentially now we're going to have a really nice, clean view over here, this create method. So now over here we can make it look really nice. And all we have to do is say pizza.objects.validate. So now we're going to call this function that we created. So now we have this, because we've overwritten this objects that we just overrode in our models, we now have this validate function available to us that we created. So it takes in two things, right? We made it take in size. We also made it take in slices, right? And it's also going to give us something back, right? It's going to either return us a pizza that we just created, or it's going to give us back errors as an array. right? So what we can do is just shove this stuff in here, say size and slices. So, and that's pretty much it. And it'll figure out most of it by itself. But the thing is now we need to store this. So when we call this, let's look back at our models again just so you can see what's happening. So when we call this validate function, what we're doing is we're appending some errors, yada yada, and then down here we're either returning a pizza object or we're returning errors. So it's either a pizza or a list. So an object or list. We can use that to our advantage over here. So on this side, what we can do is say, we want to know what that was. So we're going to say, you can call this whatever you feel like. What we're going to check for, we're going to say, hey, is this thing a list or is it a pizza? If it's a list, then we want to know about those errors. We can also make this like a one-liner. We can grab this, put it over here, and we don't need this variable. And we can grab this, put it over here, and we don't need this variable. So now we have this one thing. So now our code is getting slimmer over here, which is what we want. So now all I have to do is say, hey, check this, see if there's any errors, if it's a list. Does anyone know how you can type check?
If type of pizza
Okay.
is on this type, is I don't know what the type works.
Like this?
Is instance.
Is instance? It's the same, I think.
It's the same. I don't know. No, it's like yeah.
Like this?
And then in parentheses we use the object, then the type.
Oh, so capital pizza, right? So, or do we want to pass lowercase pizza?
Yeah, first of all the instance and then what type.
Okay.
So it's instance, pizza, comma, and what type is it?
Oh, so pizza here.
Yeah, like this.
Oh, so then you don't even need this over here. You just do this, right? So if is instance pizza, if it's a pizza object, if we got back a pizza, then we know you were successful, right? I like this is cleaner than the way I was going to do it. Because if it's ever an else, is this right here ever runs, we know it's a list of errors. Because in one case we said if we got a pizza, that's good. Otherwise, there's errors. So then, now we can check. Well, we really don't care about this case here at all, honestly. We just want to know if there's issues with it. So honestly, we could do the opposite of this. Let's call this just list. All right, so we're going to just kind of flip that around on its head. So we're doing the opposite. We're going to say if we got a list, we don't care if we got a pizza. We know that's successful, but we want to know if there was issues. That's all I was trying to get at. So we're going to check to see if this pizza is a list. And if it is, we're going to tell you what you did wrong, essentially. So yeah, there's one thing that we're going to need in our app, and that's basically messages. There's a messages plugin you can use. It's basically Flash. It'll show us errors. Does anyone know how I can include it?
Imported?
Yeah. Yeah, it's from a very specific place, actually. Does anyone know? Go look it up if you don't know. It's from Django something.
I think I know.
It's a weird word.
It's Django short. I think it's from shortcut, and it's.
It's actually not from shortcuts. It's from a weird. Contrib. Absolutely.
The other thing was the arrow for arrow.
Yeah.
I would have never guessed that. Where did that come from?
This comes from the platform. So if you take a look at over here, do they even talk about messages anymore? They may have gotten rid of it.
No.
It used to be on here.
No, there's nothing about that.
I was thinking, well, since you're returning it, why don't you just return the error list when you come back? We cannot do that, you said? I think you said we cannot do this.
Well, I'm not sure what you mean.
I mean, like,
Return the errors?
You know, like when we were at the manage.
Yeah.
And,
You could actually do it there.
Like, you cannot send anything from models to review.
You can.
That's why, like, why don't we just send the error list?
You could. We are actually doing that. Do you mean send the actual Flash errors?
No, I mean just you have the error list right now.
Uh-huh.
But just want to show it. Okay.
Yeah. So we have the errors.
We're good.
We do have those errors. In fact, let's make this more clear. Let's name this errors. Let's name this variable errors. So now we know,
It's kind of like it's errors, it's errors.
yeah.
It's not errors, it's speech.
So there's a function that we need to use on this messages to basically show the errors. Does anyone know what it's called?
Get messages.
Something like that. Kind of. So what we can do is, in our case, we're going to have to look through all of our errors and add each error to our page. So to do that, we need to use this messages plugin we just used, or grabbed up here. And, huh? I think so. It's going to be like messages.add error. Add message. I think it's like this. Sorry? Yeah, yeah. So you would put like messages.error. I forget how this works. What we're going to do is try to figure this out. Let's figure out Django.contrib messages. We'll just look it up because I don't remember. So it looks like I already looked this up. And you can find this if you just type that in. What I just typed in, you'll find it. It'll show you how to do this. Here we go. Here's exactly what we're looking for. All right, so this line right here, add message. So basically it takes a request and then it takes the type of thing you want it to display as. There's a couple, as you can see down here. There's one for errors, warnings, success, and that kind of stuff. Yeah, it probably shows like an icon or something. And then the third argument is what we want it to show, that error. So in our case, we're going to change this. First one, it takes the request up here, and then we're going to say messages.error because it should be an error.
What do we want to
Like the errors, right?
Yeah.
Errors are very important.
So the thing is we need to do this in a for loop. We need to look through all of our errors and add each one, calling this function for as many as we have. How would I do that?
So for these and errors,
Okay, so for error in errors.
and then you change that last one, you just put error.
Absolutely. There we go. So basically what this does,
Keep coming. It's not going to keep coming. So you click OK, or they just like go all over.
they'll go away and then it won't just keep doing the same ones over and over. It'll basically just make them go away and show again, go away and show again.
We're going to see it, right?
You'll see it. You'll see them.
Oh,
Yeah. So we have this. Basically, the way messages works in Django, this whole thing, basically it shoves it into session. If you remember what session is, for one redirect. It doesn't last forever. It just does it for one redirect, which is all we want.
It's like Flash.
It's basically Flash in Flask. Flash and Flask. So now what we can do is we can actually access these messages on our page. Does anyone know how we can do that?
on the template?
Something like that.
I'm guessing.
So over here,
Message.
I think that's what it is. So we need to look through all those errors on our page here. We can say for message and messages, I think.
But on that over there is going to print it or not yet?
It will. It'll work.
Like, yeah, just by generating the error from Python, not to make that to the...
Yeah. Exactly. We do. Thank you. So if messages exist, so this messages variable magically exists. It just exists because we added a message. So if you add a message, then it's going to be on your page, just so you know. So we'll say end this if statement if I use the right tags. Sorry?
No, I'm just guessing how we can print
So if they exist,
for,
then we need a for loop, right?
and
Okay.
in without error messages.
For message in messages. Okay, and then we'll end this for. Okay, and then
Now
what?
it's like error. Oh, never mind.
Or we could just show in each one.
Oh,
And then we'll say message here. Does that make sense? This kind of whole chunk. So if we have any errors, essentially is what this says. If there's any errors, look through those and make an H1 for everyone that exists. So hopefully that'll do what we want. We'll find out. So let's save this and check it out. Yeah, over here. Okay. So let's refresh our page. It might break, but that's okay. There we go.
Oh.
Size must be between 1 and 18 inches. So it works. It worked right away.
What happened to the pop-up? I thought like we're gonna see like an error like on the screen.
This one.
That's what I was waiting for.
Oh, no, we just
No,
did
like
it.
even okay
That's
button
that.
does it.
Oh.
You know, like boom, no, you did something wrong.
Yeah.
But why we didn't get two messages?
We should have gotten 2. It should say number of slices also.
Because it stopped at the first bit and returned it already, I believe.
It shouldn't be the reason why though. It should do both.
Yeah, she will do both.
Maybe you need.
Here, let's do a test really quick. Let's do the same check. If slices is greater than 18, let's just check because it should be running both of these. Let's try this one more time. Okay. Well, yeah, our other condition was not running.
Not equal, no.
If it's less than 1 or greater than 18, if slices is greater than size,
You put
Well,
size
it's
and
still
it
less
didn't
than
work.
one because it was wrong.
It might not work because if we don't provide the size,
Oh.
Yeah, because we didn't provide the size. That is
Okay.
you're right.
so we can do a check for this again then. We can say if the size is less than 1. So that means you didn't provide one. So it's a bunch of ors, right? So if the slices is less than 1.
I think that last one should be and. Because still, like, if one of these okay, like, they everything is going to be okay.
we have the
That last
same
one there.
condition.
Let's make it an and. So an and.
If these are okay, then that one will mess it up.
Let's find out. So create pizza. Nope.
Override it. All of them and the
Right or?
Let's keep this as an or. That might work as an or. No.
Or this one is becoming like the or change one of them and you should do it now.
Make both of these
It's
and.
kinda like it'd be almost impossible. Yeah, one of them and.
No.
The
That's
problem
not gonna-
is that if we don't provide a size, it doesn't even exist.
Yeah.
Right.
exactly.
Because for that last one, you don't provide size. Why working on the first one? You don't provide size. I have a like big thing like that. But they didn't.
We'll just keep it simple and say if slices is greater than 18.
Yeah.
Number of slices, we'll just say must be between 1 and 18.
Okay. Now
We'll just grab this same one and change it to slices. I think that'll work. Slices must be between 1 and 18 inches. All right, so let's run it. So there we go. We get our both of the errors. So we told people what they did wrong, and now we're going to try to create a pizza. So we need to make sure we can still create a pizza. So let's do that. We'll make a 32-inch pizza with 16 slices. Create pizza. I don't think it did it.
the last one, the second one should not come up. The slices.
I think it just,
16, right?
yeah.
That's 216, yeah, should be one of them.
I don't think it made it.
No?
Huh. Yeah, it didn't create it. So let's find out why. Pizza objects create and then return pizza. What have we done wrong?
Can you print the pizza here, like, just like for a print statement?
Yeah, we'll do a print somewhere in here.
Return pizza before we leave that. Return pizza.
Yeah, because I don't.
If we're going inside, I think.
Yeah, I don't think it's running this code here.
No.
Yeah,
It's
that's what
definitely-
I'm saying. Like, we are and
Yeah, creating a pizza. Let's say that right there. Oops. All right, so if it says that, then we know it's trying to create it. So this will be sort of useful. We'll just put in some random numbers. And then we'll check our console. Yeah, so it's not running it.
or not coming there.
Actually,
Yeah, see, we're putting in data and it's still running these errors,
Yeah.
which is not supposed to
That's
happen.
the problem.
Never creating it.
So
Yeah, but
means
the condition is to not put more than 18, so you put in 123 and it shows the error. So it
Yeah.
stops. Let's try to put like 15 and 15 or 10 and 10.
We'll try like 15. That'll work. So I don't think it's running it.
Created.
Yeah, see, so it's not running that code.
Even with the fourth one too. Even when there's nothing in the error.
How about,
Maybe this check isn't running.
how about to delete all the messages on every time we create
You
another
should do
pizza?
it, right?
It's supposed to do that.
Like that's I go.
Yeah, like if I refresh, it goes away.
Yeah,
But if I click create and then refresh, it goes away. But when we actually create one successfully, it's supposed to go away. So since it's not, that's why that's happening. So now we can try to figure out why this isn't running. If the length of errors is less than 1, that's pretty straightforward. If the size of our list,
Okay, greater than one.
no,
Actually.
it's easier because this is an array, so we
No, if you want to
can-
create it, exactly.
let's be
Greater
more
than one.
explicit. Yeah, let's be more explicit and just compare it with 0. See if there's nothing in the list. Maybe that'll help us out. Create pizza, that works still.
15.
Yeah, 1515, sorry. Yeah, so it doesn't want to run that.
See if we got in.
You know why? Because if the error equals to 0, it's not gonna run the create. So if
Right.
it's greater than 0, not less than 0.
But we don't want to say greater than 0, because if it's greater
Ah,
than
yeah,
0,
you're right.
you
You're
have
right.
errors.
You're right. Or less than 0.
Let's print, I have an idea, let's print errors after this stuff runs.
I was gonna say, why don't you print length error? Let's see what's coming if there's no error.
Good idea. Let's do both. Man. Length errors. Alright, so now we're going to check both of these things. I'm going to clear the console some like this so we can see it. And we'll try this. 15. So you can see it's still giving us this error.
Yeah.
That's why. So it's always running that code, essentially.
All right.
So does it never exit out of that?
I think it says 2 or
Yeah, so this is the length.
even with the 1515 it says 2.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense.
Believe me, that's our statement. It's always okay. Because if one of the conditions, so if even if you're saying 15, it's always creating an error because one of the sides up is 1. You know? No, we're approaching it like this should be the opposite of that.
So you're saying
Yeah,
It's
like
actually,
it's like we're doing. Yeah, it should be like.
greater than 1 and less than 18?
Yeah, we don't want to get there. Yeah, we're having like the opposite.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that's the
Now
problem.
it's running.
Now it'll work.
Now the error should be
Instead to
0.
flip those around a little bit. So we'll try to create it. It flags the errors. 15, 15.
Oh,
So
dang, no, that's.
it's the
So
same.
we still get it.
running always. Still, I would put and because now whenever you put 15, 15 is less than 18. So this is 1 and over there is 1, 2. That's why I want and, not oh. Please.
Oh, yeah.
And instead of oh.
I think that'll work. So it has to be within the range. Okay. Let's try it. There we go. Okay. So we had to fix our conditionals a bit there, but it works. That's all. Okay. So it's within this number and it's within this number, and that's good.
It's always confusing. I would have taken hours by myself.
So good. We have a pretty solid app now. You can't just click create pizza. It'll break. Yeah, so that error.
We're trying to print it. Maybe just get rid of that. You don't have to that for me.
once is equals twice
I think what's happening is if there's no, I think we need to compare a null value.
So I know when we don't provide anything, I don't know about input, but when we use select or checkbox, we do not select anything or put a
Yeah.
checkbox.
I think yeah.
Then
That's,
it doesn't determine this field.
yeah, we could do a null check and just be like, if the pizza's type is, if the number is null, or we can just force them to have a 1 here. Can't you have like a step on these? Isn't there like a step?
I think that that's that statement for error. If we don't have error, then for the checkpoint and everything.
I think this will work. Hang on, let's see what this does. I think this will work. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna have basically,
Oh, that's like
yeah, it's one of these things. So now you have to type in whatever that number is.
isn't there a option like
Default value?
yeah,
I think so.
Well, you can also set right primary, like you have to be,
yeah, or we can use like value equals 1 from the beginning.
That's what I was thinking. Value equals 1, like this. I think that'll work too. A regex string would totally work. That's true. So there you go.
I would put it hidden.
Sorry, make it hidden?
Make it hidden. But like another, I did that in one of my projects where I send the value in that empty thing, but it doesn't show like that. So it will still give me 1 if nobody updated. It's like just ignore it.
Gotcha. I see what you're saying. Alright, so we validated this stuff now. That's good. So if we try
it'll
to,
always show one.
yeah, so it'll always be 1, so you can't break it now. So if I try to create a pizza,
I think I remember what we did. I did it with the
oh, well that's nice. Let's take away these max lengths because it's kind of making its own error now, making what we just made kind of useless. We'll get rid of these other things here. So just the initial value. Alright, so here we go. Let's try to make this 20 inches and then create it. I thought we made it 1 and 18. That's weird. Hold on.
Oh my god.
Yeah, we lost our condition.
Oh.
Because and I think the problem with
And
and
is very strict. One like the way.
if and both has to be right.
If it's more than 1 and less than 18, this is actually a good thing. If the size is more than 1 and the size is less than 18, then it's within the range that we do want. So this should not be there if we have this one.
So we have to flip it again.
Yeah.
We just
So we had it right
So
initially.
you had
We had
flip
the right,
because
but
I had
instead of the old.
min and max on the other side, and I have to flip it back
Yeah,
again.
size should be more than 1.
I think so.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then size should be
Less than
Size is,
less than.
well, we can't have less than.
Oh my god.
So in case we put a pizza more than 1, that's
Yes,
true.
yes.
We need not to show an error.
exactly. And size is less than 18. Wait, no, that's what the
When
good
size is bigger,
That's it, we're done.
when the size is smaller than 1,
Yes.
that means like 0,
Yeah, but
minus
yeah.
1, and so on. And when size is greater,
Greater than 18.
we'll leave just this and put nothing in front. Yeah,
Like that, right?
So size is smaller than 1 minus.
Yeah,
That's
no,
what we
that
had.
was fine.
What's that?
The size needs to be more
True,
than
true.
one.
It's anything other
Right,
than these two
it does.
Size
So
But
like, why is it less than one?
Because we show an error
We want to
here.
generate an error.
Oh, generating an error.
Because we're trying to
Okay.
create an
If
error.
it's
We're
less
trying to get
than
the opposite.
one. Okay.
That's why you need to know.
Alright, so we'll do the same thing for this. I'm pretty sure we had that like a long time ago.
Yeah, but it was before.
Alright, so let's try this. That should work. Let's make this like 200. Well then, I don't think our errors are working. It's less than 1 and greater than
I think
18.
now you gotta put them back at O. I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now it needs to be an OR.
So it was just fine the first time.
I think you're right. The first time.
Add to match
It
another
was just fine the
statement.
first time you did it.
Leave that statement. So
But it didn't work.
bring it back.
It didn't work.
Was that
Yeah.
the least?
I think we want it as an OR.
It's like a dumb change.
If it's less than 1 or it's greater than 18, we'll tell you that.
It did not work.
Let's go with negative 123. Okay, there we go. But does it work now if we say 5 and 5?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's the
but
problem. it doesn't work.
about
If
this
it's correct,
diagram?
it doesn't work.
If it's what?
If correct, it doesn't work.
Right.
It doesn't create. But if you're wrong, it shows the message.
Yeah, yeah.
So that means it doesn't.
You know, we
create.
could just do this. If the size is less than 1, then that's an error in itself. If the size is greater than 18, then that's an error in itself. So we'll just kind of do this. Right? Isn't that the same thing? Then we'll just do them separately because we don't really care about the range. We just want to know the specifics. So this is the same kind of idea. So grab this, put that there. That's the same idea. Right? We have 4 extra lines. That's not that bad. So yeah. That should have worked
No, because it's
because it was 1.
smaller than 1.
Are you hitting refresh?
Sorry?
Are you hitting the refresh on your,
Well, when we click create, it reruns this page. It,
you could also just do like range and then brackets.
It didn't create it though.
oh, does that work?
It didn't do create. It didn't create.
No, it didn't. It did not create. I swear we had this working at one point,
I know.
and we broke it. Okay. Size and slit.
Debugging 20% code.
Pretty much. That's pretty much how it goes.
So if you can make your code shorter, like less lines, it's gonna make it run more efficiently.
Probably. Yeah.
In theory.
For sure. Yeah.
Or you probably want to test the long way first, make sure you get that right.
Yeah. Before you just kind of trim it down. It's less than 1. How are these not? That's so weird. I think something's wrong. Let's try to rerun this.
Yeah. Maybe the
Isn't
session.
don't be like
Good.
make
It's supposed to
our,
break.
make migrations and
No, it
migrate?
works like no.
What were you saying? Something about migrations?
Yeah.
No, you don't have to. If you're making a validator class, you don't have to migrate.
Yeah, but in create method of pizzas, we added this field that overrides the object.
No, you don't have to. Yeah, you don't have to remigrate for that change. Yeah. Yeah, only if you're creating a whole new model. If it's a manager class, you don't have to migrate.
Yeah, but you said yesterday we added a new field. But yeah, that's not.
Yeah, except for this one, because it's not actually on the model. Yeah. All right, so let's fix this really quick, and then we'll kind of wrap it up. What's weird is let's try to see if this will run without our error checks. That's the thing I want to know. So it adds our pizza, just like we expect. All right. So if the length of errors is 0, it's creating it. All right. So let's just redo this stuff. If the size is less than 1, right? Errors.append. No semicolon. E greater than 1. Size must be greater than 1. Let's just leave just that one. That one's it's pretty straightforward. Let's make size negative 100. It doesn't run that check. That's weird. It seems like that it's taking these out as not numbers. Maybe we have to cast these as integers. I think that's why.
Yeah.
Because we're comparing a string.
Yeah. I think that's why.
Yeah, so we're going to turn them into numbers because we're probably comparing strings. That's probably what it is. I think that's all that our problem was.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll say size must be between 1 and 18, and then if int, we'll just do this quickly because I think that was totally it. Turn the string into a number if it's less than 1, or int slices is greater than 18. Same thing.
No, the size is fine. I think the slices is the problem because we put the slices as a string.
Oh, we did?
Yeah.
Are you sure? In our models?
Anyway,
Yeah,
this
in the
is
model.
a string then.
You're
Even
casting,
if you
you're
run
casting
a
it,
number.
even if it was straight.
Or Yeah.
Still custom.
Yeah, well, even if it's typed number, we're going to get that data out, and it's probably going to parse it as a string. So we need to turn it into a number, essentially. So that should fix it. So let's run this. Look like negative 100, negative 100. That breaks, that's good. So let's try to go with 10 and 10. Now it works.
Good.
So it was just casting it as an int. That's all we needed. So we've got our custom validator thing working now. That's all it took. Just turning our strings into ints and numbers. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the lecture, really. So if you want, what I can do is push this to GitHub, and I want you guys to figure out how you can do the same thing for your topping model. Do the same thing for the topping model, because we did it for the pizza, but what about our topping? You have to put in a name for it, right? So if I push this to GitHub and send it to you guys, try to work on that and make that work. Does that sound like a plan?
Yeah.
Good.
We'll do a pull request.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so I'm going to stop this here.